Right, the first item on the agenda this evening is apologies. I have received apologies from Councillor John Johnson, Councillor Claire McGinty, Councillor Martin Murphy, Councillor Josephine McZungwa, Councillor Sarah Burton Shaw, Councillor Liz McMullen, Councillor Tommy Mulvena, Councillor Julie Day, Councillor Sarah Day, Councillor Louise Bell, Councillor Andrew Spoward, Councillor Ian McAlpine, and Councillor Dr. Ollie Scargill. Is there any other apologies? No. Thank you. That takes us to item 2, declarations of interest and dispensations. I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to go through this one just to make sure everybody's clear about what we have to do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just so every member is aware, I've written to all members to set out the position with regard to interested meetings of the authority that will deal with the council's budget proposals. This is in addition to the training on the code of conduct and specifically declarations of interest that have been provided to all members at the beginning of their terms of office or the start of the municipal year. In addition, where requested, advice has also been provided to individual members on interest in meetings of the authority that deal with the budget proposals. In relation to a registrable personal interest, where a member has been appointed by the authority to an outside body or bodies, dispensations have been granted to allow them to participate and vote at any meetings in relation to that registrable interest and their membership of that body. Where members have been granted such dispensations, they are not required to declare these registrable personal interests or the grant of those dispensations at this meeting. A list of the appointments to the authority's outside bodies and the dispensations granted to all members in respect of these appointments has been sent to all members and is available for inspection at this meeting if any member wants to view it. And at this point, I would like to ask members if they have any other interests that they would like to declare at this meeting.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to declare a non-registrable personal interest in item 3 as my sister is an employee and director of an organisation that contracts with North Tyneside Council.
I'd like to declare a non-registrable personal interest in that I'm a trustee of North Tyneside Carers Centre, which contracts with the council.
Thank you. Councillor David Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest. I work with Tynemere Fire and Rescue Service, and my wife is works for North Tyneside Citizens Advice, and I'm on the board of trustees.
Councillor O'Keefe.
Yeah, I would like to declare a non-registrable interest for item 3 as I have a family member who works for North Tyneside Council.
Councillor Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, non-registrable interest in item 3 of a family member that works for North Tyneside Council.
Councillor Andrew Thirlway.
I've got an interest because my brother-in-law is a company director of Parkside Care, which has contracts with North Tyneside Council to provide adult social care, and I'll be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Councillor Jane Shaw.
I've got a non-registrable interest in that my daughter is employed by an organisation that contracts with North Tyneside Council.
Councillor Jim Montague.
I'd like to declare that my company sometimes has small contracts with North Tyneside Music Education Hub.
Councillor Julie Crothers.
Thank you, Chair. Non-registrable interest is my sister's the elected mayor. I have family members employed by the authority, and registrable is I'm a company director, employee of Justice Prince Community Interest Company, and we'll have contracts with the council. And sorry, I've got to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ian Bones.
Thank you, Chair. I have a non-registrable personal interest in that a member of my family works for the authority, and I am also a trustee of Pathways for All, which is a charity that provides council services.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more? Councillor John Hunter.
Chair, I'd like to declare that I have paid my council tax and I am eligible to take part in this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Collins.
Apologies, Chair. I should have said that I will be leaving the meeting.
Thank you, councillor. In that case, councillor Crowthers, can I ask you to leave the meeting now because we are going into item 3. Right, we're now on to item 3. At this meeting, the council will consider the Cabinet's proposals in relation to the general fund budget and resulting estimates of amounts for the council tax requirements. I will first of all request Councillor Anthony McMullen to move the Cabinet's proposals. Once those proposals are seconded, I will invite members to ask questions relating only to matters of principle. Once any relevant questions have been asked and answered, I will invite members to debate the council's budget proposals. Councillor McMullen will have the right to reply at the end of the debate. I would like to remind members that regulations are in force requiring local authorities immediately after any vote is taken at the budget decision meeting to record the minutes of the proceedings. The names of the persons who cast the vote for the decisions against, for, against, or abstain from the voting. This requirement will be facilitated by the use of the electronic voting system. I now invite Councillor McMullen to move the Cabinet's proposal. You have 10 minutes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Following the approval by Cabinet on the 2nd of February, I'm now happy to present the 2026-27 budget proposals to Council for the General Fund. Council will be aware that the Housing Revenue Account budget was approved by Cabinet last month. I hope that this debate will be a positive one and we continue to ensure that we can deliver the best possible service to our residents with the resources we have available. We are proud of what we've achieved under the previous council plan. The borough is safer, cleaner and greener, and many areas have seen regeneration and investment, with transformation evident in Whitley Bay, Wallsend, North Shields, and our plans are beginning in the northwest. Our ambitions lie at the heart of everything that we do, helping to ensure that better, healthier lives for our residents in a borough where they feel proud to call home and which is full of opportunities. Our budget helps us to deliver our ambitions. This budget is the first opportunity to align our resources to the ambitions set out within our North Tyneside Council Plan 2025 to 2029, building upon the successes we've seen in previous years. As an authority, we have faced significant financial challenges recently, and our funding has simply not kept pace with the demand for our statutory services, the services that many of our residents depend upon. In November, we presented our initial budget proposals and started our consultation process. And at that time, we were clear that the budget was not yet balanced, and we waited for further clarity from government on funding reforms being introduced within the sector. The initial budget proposals made it clear that it was likely that the authority would need to increase council tax by 4.99%, a decision that was not taken lightly, but in line with the government's planning assumptions and funding allocations. The provisional settlement announced on the 17th of December represented a significant step in the reform of local government funding, with a transition towards multi-year financial settlements to give us more certainty. This will allow us to plan more effectively over the medium term, and these reforms also provide greater flexibility with fewer specific grants, meaning we're now able to direct resources locally to meet our priorities. Those fund reforms also seek to align resources to the communities that need the most support. The impact of our continued success in improving the borough, as can be seen from the improving deprivation levels, mean that we do not always get as much funding as our regional neighbours. A byproduct of our success in improving our overall deprivation levels means less relative funding, even though we need to cope with the rising demand and complexity of service delivery. This is particularly the case with our statutory services such as social care, and our funding levels follow years of sustained and often disproportionate reductions in the resources available to us. In addition, we're reviewing government funding. We must continue to act responsibly and ensure that we remain financially sustainable. We have a strong track record of delivering savings in response to our financial challenges, the majority of which are beyond our control. We have already delivered in excess of £20 million of savings since the introduction of our medium-term financial plan project framework 2 years ago, and our current change programme will help us to build upon these successes and ensure that we can respond at pace. Our budget is honest about the challenges we face and the scale of pressure that we're currently managing. The budget includes over £32 million of additional investment in the delivery of our services, many of which reflect the challenges we have reported during the current financial year. Over half of this relates to social care, including almost £10 million in children's services and £8 million in adult social care, as demand for these services continues to rise significantly, exceeding the funding we receive, a trend that is seen across the country. We continue to manage the impact of inflation on all of our contracts and on our workforce, which places further pressures on our limited resources. We have not hidden from the need to continue to review the delivery and design of our services and proactively identify opportunities for greater efficiencies. And whilst our medium-term financial plan project framework continues to serve us well, this year we also reviewed all of our income and expenditure budgets as part of developing our budget. These were our director budget reviews, and we invited the necessary scrutiny and challenge to ensure that we deliver value for money and can achieve our best outcomes for our residents. We're not afraid to take difficult decisions in the interest of ensuring that we can protect the services that our residents have told us they need the most. In addition to proposing the council tax increases, the budget identifies over £25 million of the savings, with proposals across all of our services. Those proposals draw upon the outcomes of the director budget reviews and measures including the continuation of the review of our workforce, the review of our buildings, fees and charges, as well as our council tax support scheme. All of these are considered necessary to be able to balance our budget without relying on the use of reserves, and we remain committed to building these over the medium-term plan in a planned and responsible manner. We are proud to be a council that listens to our tenants, residents, businesses and stakeholders. We give them opportunities to have their say throughout this year, including engaging with the Mayor, Cabinet and Ward members at our residents panels, our big community conversations, and we carried out an extensive budget consultation. In this, residents told us they understand the challenges we face as an authority, and they were supportive of the overall approach that we've taken to identify savings and supporting our willingness to continue to help our residents and businesses through times of change. What is most telling is the debate is what we've not been said, but what has not been done. The Conservatives, Reform and Independent councillors have not submitted an alternative budget, not one set of costed amendments, not one set of balanced proposals. Setting out a council budget is the most basic responsibility of anybody who wants to run this authority. It means showing your numbers, explaining your choices, and being honest about the consequences. It's easy to criticise, but it's much harder to put your name to a budget and say how you balance the books. If they're not prepared to do that work, it raises serious questions about whether they're ready to govern. Despite the challenges we face, we remain an ambitious council, and this council proposes to continue investing responsibly in all four corners of the borough. In line with our priorities, we are proud of our strong track record in securing external funding. We will continue to proactively seek out external funding opportunities, using the money to its maximum effect. With our investment plan, we are continuing our plans to invest over £352 million in our borough, improving our roads, schools, buildings, and ensuring that infrastructure is in place to deliver our services effectively and efficiently. We'll work hard to secure external investment with over 84 million, well, that's 57% of our general fund investment plan, paid for by external grants and contributions. Since the publications of the council papers last week, we've received the final local government finance settlement earlier this week. And on Monday afternoon, together with a revised update from police colleagues, I can give the Chamber the following update now. The council papers indicated that there was a maximum increase in the police precept was based on £15, based on the provisional settlement. However, the police budget includes permission from the Home Office to increase the precept to £18.50 for a Band D property. Whilst this is a decision for the police, the amount needs to be included in the bill that the authority sends to residents. The final settlement includes additional funding for the borough next year and over the 3-year period of the multi-year settlement. And just over £150,000 extra has been allocated for homelessness as a ring-fenced amount. An additional unring-fenced amount of the 0.9 million has been allocated. As this was in the paper, as this was set on the council papers, to be allocated to the strategic reserve. In summary, this budget shows what a responsible Labour leadership looks like. We are protecting essential services, backing our most vulnerable residents and investing in North Tyneside, all with maintaining a balanced position. The challenges will continue, but we will continue to take responsibility and make tough decisions for the interests of residents first. I commend this budget to council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carl Johnson, I believe you're seconding the Cabinet's proposals. Do you wish to speak or do you want to reserve the right?
Second and reserve the right to speak, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I now invite members to ask questions on the Cabinet's proposals. Members are reminded, members are reminded that they have already had the opportunity to raise questions of a technical nature with officers in advance of the meeting. Can I therefore remind you that questions should relate to matters of principle and repetitive questions should be avoided. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Chair. How confident is the Cabinet member that North Tyneside will not follow other Labour-run councils in declaring effective bankruptcy with a Section 114 notice?
We've provided a balanced budget, so I don't believe we'll be declaring a Section 114 notice at any point during my tenure.
Thank you, Chair. Over the last few years, we've also passed allegedly balanced budgets, and by the time we get to year end, there are significant in-year deficits almost every single year under this and the previous administration. So I struggle to see how the Cabinet member can say that we won't declare a Section 114 notice, particularly with strategic reserves at the level they've brought them to. Does the Cabinet member think that the strategic reserve replenishment that's in this budget will go ahead, given that the ones in the previous years haven't?
Councillor Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow on from Councillor Bones' question, given that our strategic reserves are now below last year's Cabinet's own policy minimum, at what point, I wonder, would he consider that the authority could be in serious financial risk?
We do regular budgetary guidance and monitoring, and we do plans such as our medium-term financial plan to keep course correcting and making sure that we get ourselves back on track at all times. So I do not believe we're in a position where the council would be bankrupt, because I would not be in the position of being able to set a balanced budget today, which we are doing.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two issues which I'd like to raise. The first relates to the costs to councils of implementing the new employment reforms introduced by the government recently. I'd like to ask the Cabinet member what policy he has for meeting all those costs, which are likely otherwise to see that money will be diverted from vital local services.
Seems a question that I would have expected to come up during budget study group. So we constantly have our, as mentioned in my speech there, we have our employment review, our workforce review, and between that and the budgets we set, we'll be able to cover the costs of any employment reforms that we have before us.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd also like to pursue the question of the strategic reserve. You may recall that this has been raised on previous occasions. The strategic reserve, I understand at the moment, stands at about £5 million. Can the Cabinet member confirm that that is correct?
That refers to the in-year budget rather than the future budget, but that is correct.
The papers say, Chairman, that the planned use of reserve does not incorporate the potential requirement of the strategic reserve to support the current overspend of £6.2 million. If the strategic reserve is not even at the quantity of £6.2 million, are we not going to end up in a position where the strategic reserve is in effect overspent in order to bail out the current overspend?
No.
No.
I'm saying no because the year still hasn't finished. We still have mitigating things in place, and I don't believe that we'll be in that position.
Last year, Chairman, you may recall that I raised this issue, similar concerns about the lack of money in the strategic reserve and the failure to replenish it. And the cabinet member said he would get back all those numbers to a healthy reserve of £10 million, which is what this budget delivers. Can you tell me why this has not happened, why he has failed to do so?
I believe restocking our MTP to the number over the MTP period is achievable. I didn't say it was going to happen in 1 year.
I've simply referred to the words of the cabinet member himself a year ago. And it seems to me that this budget last year did not deliver a replenishment of £10 million. So I'm wondering if the cabinet member can tell me how he's going to assure us that this year it will be replenished.
We have a balanced plan that's going to balance itself over the medium-term financial plan to bring our strategic reserve back into level.
Well, Chairman, I think the facts speak for themselves. I have no confidence that this will be delivered, and accordingly I'll be voting against this budget.
And Sir J. Bartoni.
Thank you, Chair. With ongoing deficits year in and year out, would the cabinet member describe this as financially stable authority?
Yes.
North Tyneside receives less per head than the North East average. What is your strategy for closing the gap?
We have a medium-term financial plan with a set of projects that will be in place so we can make sure we are financially sustainable into the medium term.
Councillor David Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. This administration has increased council tax by the maximum allowed since being in power. Does the cabinet member think that residents should continue to pay these inflation-busting increases indefinitely? And if not, what is he doing to ameliorate these increases in the future?
We are setting the budget to make sure that we provide the services we can to the residents of North Tyneside. And the best way we can do that at this time is to apply our MTFP plan, and then also the additionality that the council tax gives us allows us to keep up our libraries, our leisure centres, and keeps the same amount of services going to the residents of North Tyneside.
Anyone else? I believe you have had the opportunity, councillors, to ask some questions. I'll bring you back in, but can you make the questions in one? Sorry? I'll tell you how to run the meeting, Chair. Councillor, I'm the Chair.
Local roads and pavement spending has been frozen at £2 million per year extra since 2021. Given the inflationary pressures, does the cabinet member know how much that £2 million is worth in real terms today?
Whilst that's a great question about real terms, it delivers a lot more now that the services are in sales from Capita than it would do under a Capita contract.
It's clear that the cabinet member doesn't know the answer, so I'll tell him that that £2 million is worth just £1.6 million in today's money. That under this administration, since 2021, there's been a 20% real cut in highway spending. Given that their own government won't endorse North Tyneside approach to roads and pavements, rating their approach as only amber, what hope is there in this budget that things might actually improve?
Because we are able to reinvest all the benefits we had of bringing in the services from Capita, which returns much more than the 20% that you've just described there. But then also we are receiving more intervention funds from government because of the wonderful services we are doing with our roads and pavements.
Councillor Lewis, Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Ask the cabinet member, if expenses continue to outstrip revenue as they have this year, for the past number of years, we can't continue just to cut services and increase taxes. What's the cabinet member's plan B?
So, as the plans, the budget says, we have got a set of business unit reviews that we go around and doing. We have a MTFE plan of efficiency programs and other things. We've got plans of doing different things with different parts of the organisation. We're not just sitting here doing the same thing year in, year out, hoping things might change. We are changing the business, we're changing how the council operates to get those efficiencies and get the council running in a slicker way.
Councillor Smith?
I'd just like to look at the forecasts and just ask what we're trying to do to make the forecast more accurate. When I started in July, we were forecasting £14 million overspend. Mitigations were put in place for 10 million. As it turns out, it's going to be 6 million. But when I looked at the pack that I received for this year, in 24-25, we made savings of 20 million. So in 2 years, to look at savings of £30 million, which would be, you know, fantastic, but still overspend is quite concerning. Have you any plans to try and make the forecasts more accurate?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, we've been refining our processes for getting those forecasts tighter. So talking in a medium-term financial planning sense of forecasting, rather than in-life budget monitoring, which is a slightly different skill in how we do it. But we work alongside the other local councils. We work across a service called Pixel to make sure all of our assumptions are in line, because a lot of this stuff has been assumption-based. But one of the best things about this now is we have a multi-year settlement. We've not had one of those things before. So there's a lot more guesswork of what we think is going to go up, what sort of challenges are happening. But when you get a multi-year settlement from government, it becomes a lot more of a stable art of being able to plan and forecast from then. There'll still be some things of decisions that we won't know about, but there'll be certain things we can make educated guesses of and make sure those assumptions are common amongst everybody rather than us being an outlier. So if anything's happening, it's the industry's working in the same sort of direction. So we do use those things to refine ourselves to make sure we're in a much closer and a much more accurate forecast.
Is that all the questions we have? Therefore, I'd ask Councillor Carl Johnson if he'd like to. Sorry. All right. Sorry, apologies. We now go to the debate. Councillor Bartoni.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, this is once again a budget that asks residents to pay more and expect less. Because here's the pattern. Every year Labour has been empowering North Tyneside, council tax has gone up by the maximum amount possible. Not once, not occasionally, every single year. And every single year Labour has ignored Conservative alternatives, ignored amendments, ignored warnings, ignored the practical savings and the common sense suggestions. And what do we get for it? A budget that's basically held together with crossed fingers and depleted reserves. The papers admit reserves are already under strain. We've brought 37.5 million of reserves and balances into this year with plans for 35.9 million next year, but that assumes that we can absorb the current 6.2 million in-year pressure without taking another bite from the same pot. That's not sound financial management. That's paying for the groceries from the savings account while pretending it's a strategy. And the strategic reserves, the council's shock absorber, is already below the council's own target. So Labour's answer is, don't worry, we'll rebuild it later. But later is not a plan, it's a delusion. And the biggest pressures are the very services residents rely on most: children's services, adult social care costs and frontline services. And the response is a string of projects that are code for real-term cuts and redundancies. So let's be blunt. When you rely on reserves, when you push through maximum tax rises, and when you still can't balance the books, you're not protecting residents, you're passing the bill forward. And then let's come to the hypocrisy. While residents are told to pay more and tighten their belts and expect less, Labour have twice unanimously voted themselves £130,000 worth of pay rises, including 235% pay rise for the cabinet members, the very people who have left us in this mess, effectively a reward for their own financial failure, and all while still getting driven around in their chauffeur-driven car. And that won't be the last time they'll be hearing about that tonight. If you want people to believe you understand the pressure households are under, start by not rewarding yourselves in the middle of the crisis that you created. And then there's the wider point. We're watching Labour nationally do the same thing. Talk about competence, then deliver economic incompetence, hit jobs and leave working people worse off. Locally, North Tyneside are a mirror image of Keir Starmer's government. maximum tax, maximum spin, fewer jobs, blaming everyone else, and less honesty about the real consequences for working families. Residents need a budget that stops treating reserves like an endless credit card, stops punishing households with maximum rises and as the default setting, and starts making serious, responsible choices with leadership that shares the sacrifice instead of rewarding itself with obscene pay rises. For that reason, Chair, I will not be supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor J Bartoli.
Thank you, Chair. This year, council tax is going up by 4.99%. That's the maximum increase allowed. The same decision that happens every year. And I know for many families, things are already tight. Food costs more, energy bills are high, need a bank loan for a trip to your local pub. Everything feels that bit more expensive. So when you're told you'll be paying more, you'd expect to see that money improving services, especially the basics. But here's the issue. Spending on our roads and pavements is actually being cut in real terms by over 20%. Our residents have noticed it, and the members of the chamber opposite would be lying if they say they haven't either. Even the mayor in the back of a chauffeur-driven car must have noticed it. More potholes, more temporary patch jobs, roads that get fixed and then break apart again a few months later. We keep getting told about an extra 2 million for roads, but that money was first announced back in 2021 and hasn't increased since. After years of inflation, just to maintain the same investment as 2021, the council should be putting in 2.3 million just to keep it in 2021 levels. So in real terms, we're getting less resurfacing and more short-term fixes. And at the same time, council's allowance are going up in some cases by as much as 235%, and the chauffeur-driven car remains untouched. Now, you don't need to be an expert in finance at that and ask, are those really the right priorities? For this side of the chamber, it comes down to something simple. If residents are being asked to pay the maximum increase in council tax, then the council should be protecting core services. Things like highway maintenance, safer roads and pavements aren't optional. They matter for families, for older residents, for businesses, for emergency services. They affect daily life. What people want isn't complicated. They want fairness. They want common sense. They want to know that when they pay more, they see results. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Samuels.
Yes, I listened to Councillor Bartoli said that we would not listen to the Conservative alternative, and that's exactly the point. There was no Conservative alternative. For several years now, you failed to put a budget together because you know as well as we do that your sums don't add up. Your budget doesn't make any sense. It wasn't terribly long ago that what your point of attack was that we had hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds worth of reserves, and therefore there was no need to put the council tax up. Now, excuse me,
Councillor, we can't hear you clearly. Slow down, Councillor. You're getting overexcited.
I shall slow down for your benefit, Councillor Bartoli. You offered no alternative. You offered no alternative, and I've offered no alternative for years. So there, don't start talking about alternative. And what I said before was, for years you were telling us that we had hundreds of millions of pounds in reserves that weren't being spent that could be used to be able to reduce the council tax increase. Again, completely made up.
Excuse me, Councillor, can you just let the Councillor come?
That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. We're presented with this budget tonight, and our residents constantly risk driving on roads strewn with potholes, agonise over where their children will be educated, worry how they can afford their social care. As employees of North Tyneside Council, worry if their jobs are safe, face a 16% increase in garden waste charges, face a 4.99% increase in council tax. All this at the time when residents are having to tighten their belts as a result of this Labour government's catastrophic economic policies. Members opposite are cosseted against these rises after awarding themselves allowance increases of up to 235%. This budget reveals all of Labour's inability to maintain control of the council's finances. There is a proposed overspend of 6.2 million this year, expected to rise to 9 million within this budget. These debts will be borne by significantly reducing the council's reserves. Council reserves cannot be used indefinitely in response to council debt, as stated in the budget papers. Unplanned use of reserves will place the reserve balance below the £10 million minimum set out in the reserves and balances policy, really prudent financial management. This budget proposes to increase adult social care contributions by users. This will result in them having less choice and less frequent use, effectively a reduction in service provision to these people. This administration has allowed schools' budgets to run out of control, with debt to soar to over £15 million. The budget papers indicate that this debt will likely need to be absorbed, which will lead to a budget deficit of £24 million. Another budget proposal is a significant reduction in homeschool transport funding, resulting in parents facing increased costs or more complex logistical problems, or both. These increased financial burdens, especially for post-16 students, will be a barrier to young people continuing their education. No doubt members opposite will hide behind the excuse that they are fulfilling their statutory obligations in respect of homeschool transport. But this does not obscure the detrimental effect on students and the serious implications for their future education. As usual, members opposite will line up in true Labour fashion to blame everyone but themselves for the dire situation in which they have placed the council finances. It is their budget, they need to own it, they need to own their decisions and take responsibility for them. I will not be supporting this budget, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Andy Newman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start by saying just how disappointed I am with the level of debate that we've seen in this chamber tonight, or should I say the lack of meaningful debate, because a budget of this scale demands scrutiny, ideas, and above all, costed alternatives. Yet once again, the opposition has delivered none of these things. No alternative budget, no fully costed proposals, no attempt at constructive challenge, just criticism for the sake of headlines. Let us all be honest with each other now. Criticism without solution isn't leadership, it's political theatre, and our residents deserve far better than political theatre. When we debate something as important as the budget, our residents expect that this chamber will become a forum for serious ideas and competing visions. Instead, we've seen schoolyard politics designed for election leaflets. By refusing to table an alternative budget, the opposition have failed in their duty as opposition, but they have failed our residents. As the opposition have yet again failed to produce an alternative budget, the budget before us stands as the only credible, balanced and lawful budget on the table. I would genuinely welcome meaningful debate in this chamber on some alternative views, but we cannot debate what the opposition refuses to bring. That's the bottom line here. So I will assume, because there are no alternative budgets, everybody in this chamber will vote for the only budget that we can. I think we've talked about honesty, yet we also have to be honest about how we are in this financial situation. And I've talked about this many times before, and the opposition there seem to want to ignore this, but it goes back to austerity. Austerity has left a devastating mark across all parts of our society. For more than a decade under the last Conservative government, our budgets have been brutalised. We have lost well over 400 million in core government funding. These were not unavoidable decisions. These were political choices made along ideological lines. There's an ideological commitment to austerity. All of the budgets we have made over the past 10, 12 years, all of the council tax rises, all everything which has happened to our reserves is a complete result of the Conservatives' dedication to austerity. And for once, I would like the opposition to actually own that and be honest with the residents. Yet despite the ideological commitment which has destroyed our budgets, this administration has constantly delivered budgets that protect frontline services, safeguard the most vulnerable, and keep this authority going financially, keeping our financial stability in the future. This budget continues that record. It is responsible, it is honest about the pressures we face, and it prioritises stability, durability, and the protection of essential services. Whilst others in this chamber have chosen to sit on the sidelines, offering commentary instead of solutions, This administration has done the hard work. It has balanced the books, it has planned for the future, and it's taken difficult decisions necessary to secure the future of this authority. Residents expect us to make decisions, not dodge them. They expect us to act in their interest, not posture for headlines. This budget meets that expectation. It provides stability in uncertain times, it protects our services, and it keeps us on a strong financial footing. And I will end with this. When the contents of tonight's meeting inevitably finds its way onto Facebook posts or cleverly edited videos in election leaflets, I hope the people who produce them will also include one simple fact. There was only one fully costed budget presented tonight. I will be voting in favour of it, and I suggest everybody do the same. Thank you.
Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A couple of points that I want to pick up on actually. It's really interesting to hear the opposition talking about the reserves, including Councillor Wallace, who used to be a part of the Conservative group. I've been a councillor for 5 years, and all I've heard from the opposition is spend the reserves, spend the reserves. Well, we didn't spend the reserves, and we kept them because of this very reason, that we need those reserves. We need them. I also want to make a point about the budget, because as chair of the budget study group, the opposition, all of the colours of the opposition were invited to participate in that and did so in various ways. You've had the opportunity to look at facts, to ask questions of the officers, to scrutinise everything that's going on, and some of you did so. But that really could have given you the opportunity to produce an opposition budget, but you haven't done that. So there is only one budget tonight, and that's the one that I'll be supporting, and that's the one that's presented here tonight.
Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, Chair. I think once again the Tories have demonstrated how they dodge their responsibility by not putting forward an alternative budget here tonight. They always say the same thing about how much extra they would spend on areas. They say they would support our services, yet they always fail to allocate money or resources towards those particular services. They never demonstrate to the public what they would do if they were in the position of power. Leaflets are one thing, but they have to explain and they have to be accountable to the public. Instead of just sniping from the sidelines, they have to provide an alternative so that they can then be seen what their proposals are. Even if they didn't bother about putting a budget forward tonight, they also had the opportunity to go through the budget in detail in the budget study group. During that time, there was hardly any remarks from them at all during those particular groups. And when asked at the end to put forward any ideas, and this is a chance to put forward individual spending, not an overall budget, there were none forthcoming. So even then, they had no issues that they could actually bring forward. They also say, how can they complain about us making efficiency savings when they fail to provide an alternative? Yes, efficiency savings of 25 million against a pressure of 32 million. But what this does is this pays for the extra 10 million pounds that's going to children's services to help those vulnerable children and those children in care, some of whom with complex needs can cost up to 1.2 million pounds each a year to continue. Now, when we go to the meetings, they stand up, the Tories, say, oh yes, how wonderful our social services are, but they fail to give them the money to actually carry out the role to do it. Since 2022-23, 25 million was the budget for children's care. The amount of pressure that is under has now gone up to 70 million pounds this year. And that's not just this council, it's every council in the whole country. And it all started under the Tories with their austerity and with their privatisations and with their mucking about with the adult social care companies that they actually did. If you look at where we're up to, I support this budget because it carries on the responsibility to the most vulnerable in North Tyneside. With, as I said, that extra £10 million to children's services and an extra £8 million to adult services. It also protects our quality of life by maintaining all our libraries, maintaining all our leisure centres, ensures we have good environmental services, including the new regulations for food waste collection. It also continues to provide leisure, culture and sport facilities and activities to make North Tyneside attractive to residents and visitors. But it's not just on the revenue side, they also failed on the capital side. We've gone on and on about the roads tonight, yet why did the roads end up in the worst place? Because they managed to privatise the road service 1 month before the elections when they knew they were going to lose it. It's taken us 10 to 15 years to turn that round. And now we're starting to see a marked improvement in the service that we actually do on the roads. But once again, they complain about, well, what's inflation to the £2 million? Where's the proposal? Did they mention this any other time? Did they put it forward during the budget scrutiny group? No. The people outside need to know these people are charlatans when it comes to finance. They talk a good fight, but when it comes to putting up the finances for it, they refuse time and time again. Chair, I would once again ask the Chairman to support this budget as its only reasonable budget to protect the residents of North Tyneside. Thank you.
Councillor Janice Hunter.
Thank you, Chair. In a speech made by Councillor opposite, there was a suggestion that those in receipt of adult social care should be worried. Well, can I say that we on this side are extremely proud of the wide range of adult social care services we deliver across the borough. Our recent good rating from the Care Quality Commission is a clear reflection of the dedication, compassion and professionalism of our teams and our partners. It shows that people in our community are receiving strong, reliable support when they need it most. Demand for our services continues to grow, and today we are supporting more than 3,500 residents. This increasing demand highlights the trust people place in us and reinforces the importance of continuing to invest in high quality care. Our 2026-27 budget strengthens that commitment. We're investing additional funding to support our care providers and to respond positively to increasing demand, particularly among residents aged 85 plus, people living with dementia and working age adults with complex needs. But alongside this investment, we're taking steps to deliver efficiencies. These measures are designed to improve outcomes for residents while ensuring the best possible use of public resources. This includes making sure people receive the right level of support when leaving hospital and ensuring care packages are proportionate to need, delivering value, quality and greater choice and control. Our approach combines responsible financial management with a strong focus on improving people's lives. By investing where it matters and modernising how we deliver care, we're ensuring adult social care remains sustainable, high quality and centred on the people we serve. I will be supporting this budget, Chair.
Councillor Early.
Thank you, Chair. As ever, the opposition parties have provided no counter budget proposals or detailed objection to our legally balanced and costed budget. As usual, the opposition sits on the sidelines, their natural position on North Tyneside Council, I think, and carps or throws out uncosted budget proposals, while Labour gets on with the job of responsible, serious government taking difficult decisions, where necessary, protecting services and investing in the future of North Tyneside. In my portfolio area, the Council will deliver on the collective ambition set out in our Children and Young People's Plan to make North Tyneside an even greater place for children and young people to thrive, where all, including those who are vulnerable, disadvantaged or disabled, are ready for school, ready for work and life, and cared for and supported. Our work and the work of our partners will continue to be underpinned by a shared ambition to reduce inequalities, providing the right support at the right time and preventing needs from escalating wherever possible. As the Council looks to the year ahead, we will build on strong foundations, recognising our recent Ofsted inspection, which found children's services to be outstanding in all areas. Nationally, there will be substantial reform this year. Delivering on this locally, we will drive forward the government's Families First programme. We will strengthen our prevention of families and we will support them in a more seamless way through a family help service, reducing the number of changes of workers involved in their lives. The Council will also implement the Best Start family hubs in response to the government's Giving Every Child a Best Start in Life policy, aiming to reduce the gap in children's development. The Best Start family hubs approach will build on the existing family hubs model in North Tyneside to provide joined up, accessible support for families with babies and young children, bringing together health, parent support, early years education and the home learning environment all in one place. We will support early years development and school readiness through integrated early years, health visiting and children's centre provisions, with the Best Start Family Hubs acting as a single point of access for support. And for those of our children in care, we will work with other authorities in the region as part of the Department of Education's funded review of fostering, aiming to increase our number of foster carers locally. We will also begin the build of 2 in-house children's homes to support children and young people to stay close to home and connected with their communities, and reduce the increasing costs of externally provided support. And I'd just like to expand on a point that Councillor Pickard made about the rapid increase in the cost of external residential care. In 2023, the average cost of us placing a child in external residential care was £5,000 a year, approximately. It's risen now to around £8,000 a year. For children with really complex needs, our average cost is somewhere in the region of £18,000 a year. And for one case recently, we were quoted £36,000 a week. And for one case, we were quoted £36,000 a week. This is not a new phenomenon. There's been a rapid increase in the cost of private external residential care for costs for children for many years, including when the opposition's own government was in power, and that government took no action whatsoever to try and reduce or control the costs. So a position has been allowed to arise and develop where
In the last business council,
there's profiteering at the expense of vulnerable children. And it's the Labour government, through its Children's Wellbeing in Schools bill, which will attempt to tackle that by introducing a cap on external private children's care costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brian Smith.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to address the comments about not putting forward an alternative budget and what Councillor Pickard said. I did go to the budget study group. I couldn't make all the meetings. I did make suggestions. We had some fairly lively discussions within that. On the point of not making an alternative budget, what I can say is that next February, Reform will be making an alternative budget. I'm not making any derogatory comments about the difficulty you guys must have balancing these budgets, because I don't know enough about it. You guys are telling me we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing the other. Fine. That's absolutely fine. I'll work with anyone who's got the interests of North Tyneside at heart. And that's absolutely no problem at all. Councillor Montague will back me up. We had some, pretty robust discussions. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, we look at the food waste collection service. It is, okay, it's Tory legislation. We have to do it. But surely we could have chosen when to do it. We could have chosen not to implement it this year because we were waiting for a grant to run this budget, to run this service, and we weren't sure we were going to get it. And I made the suggestion, why don't we delay it? Then we know where the money is, where it is in the budget, and we can spend it appropriately. I don't know what has gone on, what decisions were made, I wasn't there. Yeah, so it's turned out that we are now taking £500,000 from the implementation, the running costs of that service a year, which will make it very difficult for the environmental service team to deliver that full service. And in fact, they're not going to be able to. They're only going to be able to deliver 30% service. The other side of this food contract is, we're paying people to take this stuff away to produce biogas. That had to be a win-win situation, publicity-wise, for this council. Someone's taking the gas away, someone's taking the food waste away, and they are going to produce biogas. Excellent. What are we getting back from it? Nothing. Nothing at all. And I think that's just something that we need to start looking at in a different way. The contracts are signed, fine. When it's up and running in a couple of years' time, we should be able to go back and say to the people, especially the residents who are buying, who hopefully will buy into this and will support us producing biogas, that we can go back to them and say, yes, well, you know, this is what we're getting back and this is how it will help North Tyneside. So, you know, these things are complicated. I get it. It's not easy. We're told we're going to get certain money. We didn't get it. But I think sometimes we have to be, maybe I'm being naive and wait until the money is in the bank until we start to spend it, instead of spending it before we get it. Now, that might not be possible. I don't know. I'm on a huge learning curve, but I am learning. And I'll tell you next February, you will be getting a reform alternative budget, and you can hold me to that.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose to address one of Councillor Smith's points very quickly, the subject of food waste came up at the Council's Audit Committee recently. And one of the points that officers made there was that our decision to procure early in terms of the equipment to deliver this has left us in a situation where we're paying significantly less than some other councils that have taken their time. So doing things early does not necessarily mean incurring higher costs. I'm sure Cabinet colleagues may elaborate on that. I was going to congratulate the Conservative group on their managing to understand how to use an inflation calculator, which is an improvement since we last discussed the council's finances in chamber. I think, you know, that prompts me, I suppose, just to remind everyone here that, you know, the council's debt is now a third less in real terms since we last had a Conservative mayor. And that's what, you know, the best part of a decade of prudent financial management under Labour looks like. I would echo comments from colleagues that it is just a huge shame that we've not seen an alternative budget, that the councillors haven't taken up the offer of time from officers to enable them to do that, and that's hugely disappointing.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. North Tyneside is a place to be proud of, and we continue to work with partners towards North Tyneside being a carbon net zero, minimising the negative impact of the lived environment on our communities. Although the main focus of the Council's Carbon Net Zero programme is the reduction of carbon emissions to mitigate against the impacts of climate change, it also has a wide range of additional benefits across the borough. These include reducing the running costs of the Council, improving air quality and health, improving the energy efficiency of homes, and the economic benefits of transitioning to a low carbon economy, such as the creation of new jobs through the growth in green industries, together with increased energy security. This includes skilled jobs on the Tyne, apprenticeships for our youngsters, and investment. I'm delighted to report that both the Council and the borough's carbon footprint has reduced by 60% and 49% respectively, which is a testament to all of the great work taking place across the borough. I'm also pleased to report that we are continuing to increase opportunities for households to reuse and recycle waste. For example, our neighbourhood waste and recycling events held in the northwest of the borough have proven very popular with residents, with over 1,200 visits to the 5 events held so far. Feedback from residents attending these local events has been extremely positive, and we continue to evaluate and listen to our residents. Alongside the pop-up events, we are carrying out a pilot into the provision of a household waste recycling facility in the northwest of the borough. A reuse and recycling shop will also be opened on the 6th of March to further enhance our offer to residents and keep goods out of landfill and be repaired. A phased rollout of mandatory food waste collections will also start in the spring this year. It is a statutory service. We have no choice. It has to happen this year, unfortunately, Councillor Smith. And we have to do it this year, and the money we received was within our settlement, not quite enough to roll it out everywhere, but we will have this phased approach, which will serve us well, I think. The General Fund also contributes to the Public Health Directorate for Public Protection, Community Safety and Emergency Planning. The financial settlement in 2026-27 budget provides a welcome degree of stability. It enables us to continue meeting our statutory responsibilities, ensuring that essential public protection arrangements remain in place across our borough. Alongside this, we will receive partnership funding and new burdens funding, which strengthens our ability to work collaboratively with key agencies and respond to emerging risks. An example of this is the oversight of the Renters' Rights Act, where we have a considerable role to play in ensuring private tenants are treated fairly. Some of the service was previously outsourced, and the current arrangements will allow for a more robust oversight of delivery and spend. While challenges and financial pressures undoubtedly remain, this settlement means we can maintain the core services that keep our residents safe. Our focus now is, as ever, on using these resources wisely, working with partners and continuing to deliver effective statutory community safety and public protection services for the year ahead. This is all within a fully costed, legal and balanced budget that has taken many months after difficult decisions to achieve this for the borough in very challenging circumstances whilst protecting services. And I commend, in the absence of any other alternative budget by any of those opposite, to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Chair. It's important this budget debate deals with facts. When Labour took control of this council in 2013, they inherited over £54 million in usable reserves. 54 million, a cushion, a safety net, a position of strength. What we see now under this mayor is a council on the brink. In previous years, when opposition parties suggested using 1 million or 2 million of reserves to protect frontline services, to fix roads and pavements, to ease pressure on council tax, we were told it would bankrupt the council. We were told it was reckless. We were lectured about prudence. Reserves, we were told, were untouchable, sacred, for emergencies only. Well, what happened next? Year after year, Labour dipped into those same reserves, their financial incompetence leading to an in-year deficit time and time again. So much so that the council's own policy admits the strategic reserve has been used to plug major in-year pressures and must be rebuilt. It turns out the only reason that they were ever opposed to us using any reserves in our budgets was because it would mean that they had less money to plug their multi-million-pound gaps in theirs. And as ever with Labour, it's always someone else's fault. Now, time and time again in this room, residents have been told that things would be better under a Labour government. In previous budget debates, we've had Labour councillor after Labour councillor line up and tell us how a Labour government would fix local government finance. But what do we see in this settlement? Things are getting worse. Labour run the council. Labour run the country. And what do we see? Growth at 0.1%. GDP per head falling. Council tax up by 4.99%. A roads and pavements budget cut in real terms. Reserves drained, financial risk rising, and the mayor and her cabinet driving us full speed towards a cliff edge and a dreaded Section 114 notice. But this is what you get under Labour. They know it as well as I do. In just the past few weeks, we've had nothing but scandal after scandal, resignation after resignation, from Mandelson and Epstein to Lord Doyle and his paedophile mate. Even councillors in North Tyneside have started to see the writing on the wall. Councillor Kerwin says that the party looks both corrupt and divided, and Councillor Munzinga is lining herself up to be the next mayor less than 12 months after the current one was elected. They're fighting like rats in a sack while the council hurtles towards bankruptcy, and our residents are asked to pay more and more and get less and less. It's hardly surprising. The mayor might laugh at paedophilia, I don't. It's hardly surprising that Labour are forcing through building so many new homes on Greenbelt across our area. It's the only way they'll raise council tax revenue enough to undo their catastrophic mismanagement of our council finances. Once again, residents will have to put up with the consequences of Labour's failure. The most egregious part of this budget is how the mayor talks about an extra 2 million for roads and pavements, a figure that hasn't increased since 2021. After years of inflation running high, that frozen 2 million is now worth over 20% less in real terms. So let's call that what it is. It's not investment, it's a cut, a stealth cut to the very service residents tell us matter the most. So while council tax goes up by 4.99%, the roads people drive on and the pavements all the residents rely on are being funded at a lower level than 5 years ago. Is it any wonder the council's own consultation found that 77.3% of our residents don't agree with this mayor's approach? Labour councillors will sit there tonight and rubber stamp this budget, which gives themselves a huge pay rise and cuts vital services. A budget which hikes council tax while keeping their chauffeur-driven car. A party embroiled in paedophile scandals, resignations and infighting, while residents across our borough suffer. I can't in good conscience support a budget with priorities like that, and I'm ashamed to sit opposite and see how many of them can. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hannah Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Under a Labour-run council, for the 13th year in a row, we have been able to keep every single library and leisure centre open and under our control. Not only have we kept them open, but they are thriving, with more and more residents using our libraries and record sign-ups to gym membership in January this year. We've also now built a now award-winning state-of-the-art sports facility in the St Peter's Sports Hub for everyone to use. We have continued to put an additional 1.5 million into keeping our borough clean and giving residents free bulky waste collections. We have started a brand new scheme holding a regular household waste recycling centre in various places in the northwest of the borough, with residents being incredibly positive about the service, and almost 1,200 residents having already used it, despite it only starting recently. We are also soon going to be launching a new way of working for the environment team and part of our housing team, showing just how innovative we can be at a time of financial constraint. Furthermore, we have kept the same number of gas cuttings, are investing in new grit bins for use during the winter months, and have maintained our Green Flag award-winning parks across our borough. Our coasts and beaches have thrived under a Labour-run council, with many holding their Blue Flag award, and the huge investment of the coastal cycle path has proven incredibly popular with residents and visitors alike. When it comes to our highways, we have kept investing an additional 2 million into our roads and footpaths. This is alongside bringing the highway service back in-house after a disastrous contract that was signed by the Tories with Capita, which wasn't value for money and didn't provide the service our residents deserve. This has all been in the face of 14 years of cuts of vital services from disastrous Tory governments under Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. In North Tyneside, over 470 million worth of Tory cuts came directly from our council's budget. The Tories in reform are essentially one and the same nowadays. Cabinet member after cabinet member in the previous Tory government have left and moved to reform at the same time as telling us how broken Britain is. What they are not being honest about is saying that they are the ones who broke it in the first place. And we'll wait to see just how many Reform Council candidates are simply recycled Tory candidates from a few years ago who fell out with the Tory leadership at the time. North Tyneside Labour Party has ambitious plans for the future, as well as a positive track record for our borough. Reform and the Tories have nothing but a track record across the country of closing vital services and not being honest with the residents about the reality of the situation councils are being faced with. It is also unbelievable that Reform and Tory councillors haven't proposed any alternatives to our budget at all, showing that they simply do not respect our residents enough to show them that under a council run by either of them, there would be no more libraries and leisure centres. We would still be trapped in a Tory signed contract which wasn't working for our residents, and the most in-need children wouldn't receive the support they and their families desperately need. As the Labour Party, however, we have brought forward a budget which invests in our borough and continues in improving our highway services. It is centred around keeping our area clean from litter and fly tipping. It prioritises our incredible leisure centres, libraries, beaches and parks. That is what you get from a Labour-run council in North Tyneside. Thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to start off by mentioning a recurring theme about failure to produce anything alternative. As a union rep at school, I've never ever went to my head teacher with a problem, not once. I've always went with a problem and a potential solution. I think that's the way things should be, which is exactly why I would never be on your side of the chamber. I would never come with complaints without some kind of solution. I think that's pretty poor. I will allow Councillor Smith, I will allow you a little bit of leeway with that because you are new. But the rest of you, you've been here long enough to know that you need to step up and produce, and not doing so is just you're failing your residents. So I'd just like to get out with you first. Can you just be quiet while I'm talking, please? I've got my teacher cap on there. Okay. Okay. So responding to Councillor Lilly, painted quite a stark picture of education in North Tyneside, which I was a bit disappointed with. I think you'll find that most schools are rated good or outstanding. And the reason I'll support it.
Sorry, Councillor, can you just keep it down? Thank you. You've had your chance now. Just listen. Thank you.
Hope you stop the clock there, Chair. Thank you. So basically, this budget will allow us to deliver on our local ambition for education strategy. We want to focus on leadership, curriculum, inclusion and standards, and we want to ensure a high quality, inclusive education where all children, especially those who are vulnerable and disadvantaged, can achieve their full potential and thrive. And we want to obviously continue doing that and make sure schools are rated good or outstanding and keep being so. This budget has been very difficult. Did I get everything? If I speak just from my portfolio, did I get everything I wanted? No, I would want more money, absolutely. But this whole image that you've tried to paint about rats in a bag fighting, all the discussions I've had with my colleagues have been very collaborative, and we've understood where cuts need to be made and where we can make efficiency savings. So I'm not quite getting that rats in the bag analogy. This budget will allow us to deliver on a new SEND inclusion strategy for the borough. We're already building on strong foundations, and we have transformational plans to further strengthen inclusion and the support available to schools in the borough for children and young people with special education needs and disabilities. We've got excellent attendance for children and young people in North Tyneside, higher and better than regional and national. And this budget will allow us to keep working in partnership, which will allow us to support the children who struggle the most to attend. It's no secret that the authority and its cabinet, we've had to take some really difficult decisions in the last couple of years to address excess school places and rising school deficits through proposed closures and mergers of schools in the local area. That's, there's no secret about that. But again, I'd like to point out that in the last 2 years, although there's been a lot of criticism from across the chamber, there hasn't been one single alternative. There hasn't been any collaborative talk where they've come to us, emailed us, talked to us, asked for a meeting and said, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Again, it's just sniping, no solutions. Moving on to skills and employability. Our post-16 pathways and work experience is another key priority. Strong emphasis on transition points. Connections actually work with all students across North Tyneside from year 9 onwards, but we've got a particularly structured support for SEND learners up to the age of 25. This budget allows us to keep doing that. We will continue to work directly with other work experience placements, prioritising young people who face disadvantage, including those not in education, employment or training, and young people with EHCPs. That takes me to talking about skills and employability. Green energy. It's not just a slogan for us in North Tyneside. It's basically jobs on the Tyne. Apprenticeships for local young people, investment in our supply chains right away across the borough. And Labour's back in that future.
So you're on your last minute. Thank you.
Thank you. We're investing 8.5 million in the Energy Academy to bring skills and jobs back to the region. So, Councillor Smith, I will have to give you a little bit of a telling off for this one. A leaflet dropped on my door from Reform. Okay, I read through it, and it was really interesting that it was all anti-green energy. They didn't want green energy. They want rid of all the wind turbines, want rid of solar panels, want rid of all that kind of stuff. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe this. We've finally started sorting out the time. We've finally started getting some industry back in there, and we've got people with jobs. We've got young apprentices who can go and get work. And then all of a sudden, we're going to take that away. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. So although I'll let you off with the budget thing, I will have a little bit of a pop at that. Sorry, Councillor Smith. So I will be supporting this budget because it allows us to do all the good things that we've been doing for a while, and it'll allow us to do good things moving into the future. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Frank Lord.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, further to my report at the last meeting, there are now 2 councillors who have indicated that they don't wish to receive the increased rate of allowance for next year. So once again, we see the hypocrisy by the party opposite, who are more than happy to criticise us for agreeing the report which recommended those allowances, more than happy to criticise us, whilst they're laughing all the way to the bank because they're pocketing the same increases. My second point is quite simply, we've had Reform promise us a budget next year. That makes 2 budgets we'll be receiving. In the role of an auctioneer, any increase on 2? That's the silence I expected.
Just to explain, Councillor Smith, you have actually had your 5 minutes, and unfortunately you can't come back in. Thank you very, sorry about that. So,
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully my voice will hold. I've got a bit of a cold, so apologies. I just want to echo what my Labour colleagues have stated and emphasise that we are presenting the only budget. It is a legally balanced, fully costed Labour budget. Conservatives, Reform and Independents have failed to submit any alternative budget. So it seems there's a lot to say, there's a lot of criticism and sniping from the sidelines. It's very different to actually engage in the difficult and challenging process of setting a legal, fully costed budget. What services would you deliver? What services you're going to cut? Because I can guarantee you can't do half the things you talk about doing. So that remains to be seen. We're still guessing about that. This Labour administration has made responsible decisions in what are very challenging circumstances, not only here in North Tyneside, but for local government across the country. It's an honest budget, it's transparent with the challenges and pressures we face, but it's also very honest and transparent about how we will address those challenges going forward. We have proposed solutions to these challenges. So we're not just talking about the problems, we're actually coming up with ways of fixing those problems. And that's challenging and it's difficult. I want to say to the residents of North Tyneside, nobody comes into public office to take those horrible and difficult decisions. Nobody wants to put the council tax up. But unfortunately, we've heard of some of those demand challenges we're facing, particularly in the areas of social care, children's services and adult social care, but also across other areas as well. This budget, everything we do here in North Tyneside under the Labour administration has got the residents of North Tyneside at the heart. It's about protecting our frontline services. It's about supporting our residents and our businesses. It's about working together with partners and with local people to achieve our ambitions for North Tyneside. And North Tyneside is one of the best places to live, work and visit. And under a Labour administration, it will continue to be so going forward. Those frontline services, we've heard some of them mentioned here tonight. We've protected our libraries and our leisure centres because residents have told us those are lifelines out there in our communities and neighbourhoods for residents of all backgrounds across all our areas. They're vital services. This budget shows that emphasis we are placing on supporting our residents to retain those services. But it's about much more than that. I won't go in, there's a huge list of positives in this budget. Well, I will name some of them, go on. There's over £427 million of fully funded capital investment between now and 2029. 236 million funding. There's 192 million through council housing investment. There's 26 million additional investment in roads and pavements since 2013. And let's not forget, we've lost 470 million under the Tory government. And it's not excuses and it's not blaming other people. It seems to me it's you, the Conservatives, who like to blame other people. We're still grappling with the devastating impact of your government. We've had over 65 million for transport and highway schemes, 1.5 million new investment in street cleaning and environmental services. And that list goes on. There are many positives And I think we're very proud of our children's services, which are rated outstanding, adult social care, that's rated good. Most of our schools are rated good or outstanding. I think there's a lot of things we are doing right as a Labour administration, and this budget is the only one on the table, but it has got the interests of our residents at heart. Thank you.
Councillor Walker, do you indicate to speak?
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Walker.
Thank you. And to follow on for those positive changes already mentioned by Mayor Karen Clark, I'd like to bring the focus round to my portfolio and talk about positive changes here. And in that fact, our 2026-27 ring fence public health grants gives us real stability and ambition. By moving to a consolidated grant within a 3-year statement, we have greater certainty, which means we can plan ahead, invest wisely, and protect the services our residents rely on. This advantage allows us to continue delivering and commissioning statutory public health services, from health visiting and sexual health to drug and alcohol support without interruption. And more importantly, it strengthens our ability to tackle the deep-rooted health inequalities that hold too many people back. With a secure multi-year budget, we can focus on prevention, early intervention, and long-term impacts. And in addition, the general fund budget also makes provision for continued support for alleviating the impact of poverty, as well as tackling its root causes. Through these positive steps for our communities, it puts us in a stronger position to improve health outcomes across the board and deliver on our ambition for better lives for all and help everyone to live a longer, healthier life, no matter their background, by using these resources carefully. I also, because no alternative budget has been presented tonight, will be voting for this successful Labour budget.
Don't see anyone else indicating. Councillor Paul Johnson, would you like the 5 minutes?
Certainly would. Thank you, Chair. Tonight is a simple test of how serious people are about running this council. We are debating a legally balanced Labour budget in one of the toughest financial climates local government has faced. Since 2010, North Tyneside had lost about £470 million in core government funding, and that is the reality. We have not ducked decisions, we have not hidden behind headlines, we have not pretended that the pressures do not exist. We've done the hard work. We've brought forward a fully costed, deliverable budget that protects frontline services, supports our most vulnerable residents, and continues to invest in North Tyneside. While others talk, we deliver. In North Tyneside, the transformation of Bedford Street and the ferry landing is on its way. In Wallsend, the High Street improvement continues, and we secured 8.4 million to expand the Energy Academy, creating capacity for about 1,000 students and linking local people directly to offshore and renewable jobs. While reform attack green energy, we are ensuring that good jobs of the future are there for local people. In the Northwest, we're investing in Kilmarth Lake and improving community spaces that residents use, like Millennium Green in Burden. We brought highways back in-house after disastrous Tory outsourcing, maintaining a guaranteed £2 million extra every year in roads and pavements, building on over 26 million in additional investment since 2013. Antisocial behaviour down the borough, 31%, and our environmental teams removed over 1,100 tonnes of waste from our streets. Children's social care remained outstanding, adult social care rated good. Most of our schools are good or outstanding. Libraries and leisure centres remain open and in-house. They are not accidents, they are Labour decisions. The political contrast couldn't be clearer. The Conservatives, Reform and Independent have not submitted an alternative budget. Not one balanced proposal, not one set of costed amendments, not one serious attempt to show how they would run this council. If they believe they are ready to lead this council, residents deserve answers. What services would they cut? Which investments would they cancel? Would they scrap the £2 million a year for roads? Would they halt housing investment? Would they walk away from skills and green jobs? What would they actually do differently? Because here is the truth. cannot claim to be an alternative administration if you refuse to do the basic work of setting an alternative budget. Criticism without numbers is easy. Leadership with numbers is hard. We've chosen to take responsibility and they have chosen to avoid it. And if you not do the hard work now, why should anyone believe they would do if they ran this council? A clear dividing line. Labour is prepared to work and govern this council to make difficult decisions and to invest where it matters most and stand by these choices. Others are prepared to shout from the sidelines. North Tyneside deserves serious leadership, deserves people willing to put their name to a plan and be accountable for it. And that is what we are doing tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe we've had a really good debate tonight, and therefore I would ask Councillor McMullen for his right to reply.
Thank you, Chair. I seem to have been in other meetings in the past couple of years because I was told there was a Conservative alternative. There certainly hasn't been one since I've been Cabinet Member for Finance. There has been some suggestions in council meetings, but I remember one meeting several months ago where the same amount of money was spent 3 times in the same meeting. So it's really important that people who present alternative budgets that are costed and have all the numbers spent once, used once, rather than it being just loads of slight little changes here, there and everywhere, because otherwise it just doesn't stack up. I've been asked how do I assure myself that we will deliver on the budget we have. I think bringing our Director of Budget Reviews this year has been transformational for that, being able to understand every single line and challenge and make sure we deliver for our residents and understand how all that works. I got told that our transformation, well, our MTFP programme was just code for redundancies. It shows to me that they don't read their overview and scrutiny papers where the plan has already been running. And there's great things in there telling us actually how we are transforming the council. We're not sitting there letting the same things run day in, day out, the way they always have done. You know, we've got market rates doubling in children's social care. Councillor Early mentioned there, one of the cases came in at £32,000 a week, which in itself is a crazy number. But beforehand, that same case was £16,000 a week. When it came to renewal, it doubled. We have those challenges that aren't of our doing, that we have to deal with. So what are we doing? We're not just sitting there praying for the best things to happen. We have transformation programs in place, such as reducing the cycle time of send, getting new plans and systems in place to make sure that the home to school transport delivers people at the right time, the right place, comfortably. Adult social care, we have transformation programs such as Magic Notes, who are reducing time, making the employee experience better. That's not a redundancy. That's making it better for our residents, for our staff, and overall that sort of element. We mentioned roads and pavements so many times this evening, and it's really important we have. £2 million a year. We are getting more because we are not paying a profit share out of capita. Look, back to overview and scrutiny, a lot of the answers are there. We had a report about our roads and pavements. We've done 3 times more gullies cleaned this year so far than they were contractually obliged to do last year. So we've got better use of funds, there's better methods and materials, there's better things that they can actually do that was not written in the contract they could do before. Looking through my budget, there's a glaring omission that I don't have any budget line for replacing external CCTV. And that's because we're fully delivered this year. There's 2 left to go. You mentioned that last year. I wasn't funding CCTV, despite you telling me several times I was. We have got all but 2 cameras have been replaced with state-of-the-art technology beating solutions. We have departments running in commercial ways. I've got an IT department there that's delivering a brand new IoT network that actually we're getting paid for, rather than paying out like several £1 million like Sunderland have done. So overall, we're delivering a budget for the residents of the borough that still keeps our libraries open, keep our leisure centres open, and delivers transformation whilst also delivering for the services the residents want.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now move to the vote, which is a simple majority vote, and the electronic voting system will be now used for this purpose.
Can all members please vote now? If all members have voted, I'll close the vote.
The result is 44 and 5 against. The motion is carried. As the budget and council tax has now been approved, the council meeting provisionally scheduled for the 26th of February 2026 will no longer be required. That concludes the business for tonight's meeting. The next meeting is on the 12th of March, 2026. I'd like to thank you all for your attendance. Thank you.